is a missing person that the Inquisitors were looking for. That's ifs, ands, and buts. We could be dead by the time they got there if anything got out or went wrong.
And lots of ifs, ands, and buts.
In the world, and especially in espionage, there is no guarantees. There's no 100% foolproof plans. A plan always needs to be flexible to include anything that can go wrong to compensate with it. So it'd be good to potentially qualify the blackmailing and asking for assistance altogether.
And on that note, sorry, go ahead, Dara.
Maybe we can accept and then kind of do something and then screw it up. Oh, we couldn't find anything.
Yes, but we have to find something to get your ring off. We could just leave and call it that. We're just worried about getting your ring off, and to do that, we'd have to make the deal and bring back the gold.
Let's see what we get from the conversation.
Indeed. All we can do is bide our time and wait.
Back up on the main deck, the crew have continued to keep their distance respectful from the rest of you, and the captain is patiently regarding all of you, one hand on his weapon, another hand on his pistol, and he's just sort of staring at you, Nicholas.
I'm gonna stare at him back.
And he continues to stare at you. And just sort of a smile sort of spreads on his face as he looks at you. And then he turns and he goes, "Oh, there he is." And as he gestures towards the main deck, you see Zardoz, still decked out in his burgundy G-string with his crisscross applesauce outfit. And he walks up. "Ah, my dinner party was quite interesting, was it not? I hear that you all got into a bit of a tussle after I left. And you there, I haven't had the pleasure. What's your name?" As he gestures to you, Nicholas.
My name?
Yes.
I am a Nick.
Nick, pleasure to meet you. I apologize I'm not giving out tours right now. We have much to discuss. I've had conversation with your friends. They had to be put away for a little while. The crew were understandably a bit overzealous and assumed that they were trying to rob us. But you, I don't believe you were part of the dinner party. So what's your story?
I was here to make sure my friends are okay.
Interesting. And how did you get here? Did you come with the other two that I have down below?
I came on a boat that got eaten by sharks.
And that is
Pretty nasty
unfortunate.
water. Yes, pretty unfortunate.
Well, I have made an offer to your friends down below. An offer that I wish to extend to you all. I apologize, where are my manners? I haven't introduced myself to you. Nick, you said?
Yes.
My name is Zaldar Zord. I am the master of the Sea Maiden's Fair. I direct the crews, I direct the captains, I make arrangements, I handle Mr. Nevercott's affairs, ashore and of course offshore. I also host dinner parties for Mr. Nevercott, for nobles of the 60 families. A dinner party that was apparently crashed and interrupted by you lot. Don't worry about the damage that was caused to Captain Tarwin's cabin. That will all be handled. No doubt the little devices that we use to mend the sails and their gossamer threads are strong enough. They can give a temporary solution to the broken window. And so we can haul it in for shore and replace the panes of glass. But I digress. Back to what I was talking about before. You've all proven to be very resourceful. And ordinarily I have a particular disdain and distaste for mercenaries. Adventurers, if you will. But I have no doubt that you are useful in your own right. I have a proposition. I know you said that you have all said or stated in one way or another that your friend down below is suffering from a cursed item. A cursed item that I will be more than happy to remove. If you'd be so kind as to retrieve an item for me. And in addition...
What item is that?
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'll sweeten the pot a little further. I'll pay you 5,000 gold. If you retrieve this item for me. And in retrieving the items, act as an agent for our organization and locating and retrieving this mysterious treasure hoard that everyone seems to be so worried about. My benefactor has tasked myself and the individuals that we use off of the ship, besides the crew and the carnival workers. We're far too busy with the Sea Maiden's Fair's everyday business to really find it for Mr. Nevercott. So, your presence on the ship tonight is fortuitous. I would say that perhaps the hand of fate has guided you this way. So yes, I would wish for you to find an item, and in doing so, locate this treasure hoard, so that Mr. Nevercott can turn it over to the Council of Sean. What say you to that?
We will agree if you remove the ring.
Of course I'll remove the ring. When you find the item. It would be absolutely ridiculous of me to ask you to find the treasure. But if you can at least find this item and bring it, and show it as a sign of good faith in finding this pilfered funds that what is it? What was it again, Captain Tarwin? And the captain looks at Zardoz and says, I believe it was taxpayer funds that were stolen. Something like that. Yes, yes. Very nasty business. Politics. Dreadful business. If you can find this item and bring it here, I'll be more than happy to remove the ring from your friend's hand.
No. We want you to remove the ring first.
Oh, Samael. Be reasonable. Why would I remove the ring when that is the reason that you came here to have it removed? You could have just asked me or one of my captains about it, but instead you all chose to sneak on board, to pretend to be something you were not, and to inadvertently cause damage to my property. Be that as it may, I'm willing to forget all of that. And
Don't play games with me. You know as well as I do that just asking never gets anything.
Of course, there's always a string attached. I wouldn't be alive today if I didn't have some sort of ulterior motive, Samael.
Well, then let me attach a string of my own. Take the ring off of her first and place it on me. And we'll go get your item.
Oh, interesting. Make a persuasion check. Zarda sort of smirks, eyebrow raised, and strides up to you and places a hand on your shoulder and says, "You have a lot of guts. I sense a bit of kinship with you. I see something in your eyes that reminds me a bit of something. Something I can't quite place. Very well, I agree to your terms. We will make the exchange. I will take her below deck myself, and one of my other men will put a second ring on your hand."
Take me with you. I wish to see the ring removed from her as it's placed onto me.
Very well.
It would not do for both of us to have a ring on us.
You drive a hard bargain. I understand your trepidation. It is a bit chilly up here, isn't it? And he stiffens, and you can see that his nipples are now hard as rocks. Oh,
Yeah,
hey.
That's what really broke the window.
Well, then, let's go retrieve your friend then. If all of you are in agreement, and he turns and begins looking at Nicholas, Brunhild, Zito.
They've already made a decision. This
Do-
is my decision now.
I have a question before we officially agree to this.
Please, but be quick. It is dreadfully chilly up here.
How did you know that they came aboard? How'd you know it was all a ruse? They had invitations.
How you mean those fakes? They were clever, very. They were able to replicate my man's handwriting quite well, but they were clearly not originals. They weren't even produced on the same paper. The paper that we use is spun from spider silk, whereas this paper is a simple linen rag. And he produces one of the invitations that you brought, and then he pulls another one out from a pouch on the captain's belt. And he holds them up, and they're very, very similar. But when he tilts the other one that he pulled from the captain's pouch, the moonlight sort of glints off of it as if it is filigreed with silver on the edges. This is how I knew that it was not real. The captain let me know in private before you even entered the chamber. Your friends, I mean.
Ah, thank you.
Was that all?
Yes, that was all.
All right. Samael, if you'll follow me.
Agreed.
Come, my friend. And he grabs your arm and hooks an arm through your elbow, walking side by side with you down the stairs.
Jeremy,
Yes,
where's
sir.
the stairs that he came up?
The stairs, there's actually two sets. There's a set on either side of the aft deck section. And then he's going down the stairs that are directly across from where you are. Not the set that's immediately next to you, but the one across on the deck. And he heads down the stairs, and as he does so, he immediately guides Samael, does a 180, and begins heading down another set.
Can I go downstairs and see if I can see him at the bottom of those stairs? Go down further.
You can certainly try. Would you like to roll a stealth check?
I
Okay.
had a D-
Gonna burn a hero point on that?
Yes.
I was gonna say, what's the D4 for?
Oh, it was a D.
No, it's a D6. The hero point is a D6. Okay.
Exactly. That's what I say.
Byron, as you begin to head around the corner and begin moving down the stairs, you hear one of the crewmen say, "Who is that?" And several members of the crew all turn and look at you as you begin moving down the stairs, and they all yell out in unison, "You there, stop!"
Am I out of sight of them, correct?
What's that?
Am I out of sight of them? Because I'm...
If you ducked into a shadow, all they saw was the movement. They just saw something moving, or the crew member saw something moving. So you move from one shadow to the next. So now you're completely out of their sight. He can't see you now. But he saw the movement.
Continue down.
Okay. So the crew members turn around and they say, "Do you know anything about this?" And he turns and looks at Brunhild, Linda, Nicholas, and Zito. "How many damn stowaways do we have aboard?" The captain turns and looks at the crew and says, "Quick, go look." And several of the crew now disperse from the deck and begin fanning out, checking the ship. On the deck below, Samael, you're being led down the stairs, down a long hallway. And let me share a map with you.
How many floors down do
You go
we got?
you go one floor down. And you
Very
head
well.
down. You head down. As you step down with Zardoz, side by side, he leads you through a doorway, 5-foot doorway, towards the aft section of the ship on this level. And he says, right at the end of the corridor, right up there on your left, and passes several doors, and you see a door all the way at the on the left, on the starboard or port side of the ship. You see a iron barred door, and you see a familiar sight of a nude Siegfried and partially clothed Zara.
It says a lot that seeing him nude is familiar to me.
Exactly. There you are,
Siegfried
friends.
waves and shakes his head.
A bit waterlogged, but safe and sound.
Siegfried, you brought clothes with you, correct?
Oh yeah, they're over in the corner there. They told us to strip down. I'll put our weapons over there. Yeah, it's pretty nice though. Letting it all hang free once in a while.
Well, go ahead and get dressed. Dad's here to get you.
Sure, whatever you say. Siegfried goes over and starts putting on his nice red clothing.
Zara follows. What did you...
Of course, Zara follows. Siegfried winks at Samael.
All right. Once we get back up on deck, we'll discuss everything there. Let's go ahead and get this business over with.
Alright. And Zara starts walking out. Can I get out now?
Zardoz walks up to the lock and he sort of passes his hand over the lock. And you hear, as he tilts and rotates his hand, you hear tumblers rolling into place, and the door unlocks.
Neat party trick.
If you wish to gather your belongings, you can. I doubt very much you'll be returning to this room.
Alright, grab my things and I walk up.
Siegfried, why don't you go on back up on deck with everybody else? We're going to go get this ring off Zara.
Okay. I start walking over up deck and just wait to see them off.
So you're all heading upstairs with Samael and Zardoz?
Well, I sent Siegfried back up to the top deck, and Zara and I are going with Zardoz.
Oh, okay, that's right. All right, Siegfried, you head upstairs.
I kind of look back, and as soon as they're out of the way, I push the button for my gizmo to come back to me, still invisible.
Okay. It follows after you. It's still invisible. You don't see it.
Patch of snow's coming with me.
And you make your way up to the top deck, main deck. Zardoz directs you. He says, just head up those stairs. You'll be able to see it. Crew will direct you. And as you head down the hallway and walking by, you see that there's doors on either side. You can hear the faint sounds of snoring coming from behind the doors on either side of the 10-foot wide corridor. And you eventually make your way up to the top. A crew member shoves an ever-bright lantern in your face for a moment, almost uncomfortably close to your face. And he says, "You didn't see anything strange coming up from the deck below, did you?"
I didn't see anything, but, I mean, now you make me curious, my good sir. But I'm just coming up because I was let out of my cage down there.
Very well. So he leads you upstairs, and the remainder of the crew and Captain Tarwin, they're all still standing up top. And Captain Tarwin is speaking to the crew in Elvish, continuing to speak in Elvish.
Hello, one and all. The great Siegfried Lockhart is here. Would anyone like to hear a tune on my viol?
I bet Brunhild would.
Yup.
Siegfried pulls out his viol and starts to...
So Zardoz gestures to you, Zara, and Samael, and says, right this way, and he leads you through...
Seems the water has made it all out of tune.
He leads you through...
just kind of brings it to the ground.
Sorry, Siegfried. I'll get to you in a moment. He leads you, Samael, and Zara down into another chamber directly across from the brig, and leads you into a small room with some what looks like costumes and various boxes and equipment. And around the back, towards the far back section of this chamber, there's another short 5-foot wide set of stairs heading down. And 3 of your strings break on your viol, Siegfried.
I guess it was more messed up than I thought from the waters. He just kind of lets it drop to the ground and pouts and leans against the wall. I'm sorry, my goods. It's not a performance I would be proud of.
So you head into a small chamber. Yet another smaller chamber, 10 foot by 10 foot, that contains various materials. You see feathers, fabric, paper, scissors, sewing needles, spools of colored thread. You see schematics all taped up on the walls. It looks like elaborate floats and devices of all sorts. And he immediately gestures, and looking out over the down the hall, you see on the end, you see several. You see a large door, and he turns. He looks to you, Samael and Zara, and says, "Best be quiet on this level. Wouldn't want to wake the babies." And then he immediately gestures right in the same chamber. You see a door immediately in front of you, a 5-foot wide door, and then you see some stairs leading downward.
We
Very well.
continue on.
So, in answer to your question, Mark, you saw them go into the chamber. You went into the chamber and found the stairs that had headed downward, that were at the rear of the chamber.
Follow.
And as you head down the stairs, you enter a 10 foot by 10 foot room with all the things that I just described to Samael and Zara. And you see a door immediately in the northern wall, and you see another set of stairs heading down.
Continue.
Are you going through the door, or are you going down the stairs?
Can I hear which way they went?
Make a perception check. Make a perception check. You hear sounds of, you're not quite sure what exactly, coming from the other side of the door. And you also hear echoing sounds. It sounds like echoing sounds of footsteps coming through the door. Rapid footsteps, and then slower footsteps. And then you hear more footsteps echoing from the deck below, coming up through the 5-foot wide section where the stairs are leading downward into the deck below.
Find a spot.
I'm sorry, you didn't come through. What'd you say?
Find a spot to hide.
Find a spot to hide? Okay, we'll go ahead and roll a stealth check. And I will share a map with you. Okay, so Zara and Samael, you continue to be led down to another level below this one. And you find yourselves another series of doors on either side of you, and you see a couple of chambers on either side, and then ahead of you you see what looks like some sort of elaborate training area with several training dummies. And he heads you around the corner. You see there are two identical hallways, short hallways with stairs leading up on either side. And there's another room across the hallway on one side and an identical one on the other. And you can hear giggling coming from the door that he doesn't lead you to, the opposite door. You can hear a distinct sound of two females giggling and laughing from beyond those doors on that side. And then he opens the door on the other one and leads you into a room, and there's a purple curtain and a Nimblewright standing in the corner. And he gestures towards a table which has an elaborate chess set up. And next to it, sitting on a metal and wood and metal cradle, is what looks like a manta ray. A scale model of a manta ray. But it looks mechanical. And the front of it has a hollow section. And Zardoz picks it up and he holds it out towards you, Zara, and he says, "There it is. Place your hand within the chamber."
I tentatively place my hand out. And looking at this Nimblewright, do I recognize it?
It looks very similar in design to the one that you've encountered before. But its tabard is a different color.
Gotcha. Is this going to hurt?
Oh, of course not. Just place your hand within the chamber. You'll feel a slight tingling sensation, and then you'll be able to remove the ring.
I do as I'm told.
Okay. When you
Something
put,
happened?
you feel that tingling sensation, and then you feel as though the ring has increased in size slightly, and it slides deftly off of your finger. And you feel that crushing pressure, that horrible presence that has been gripping your stomach fades. And then he says, "Bravo!" And when you pull your hand out, the ring falls from beneath the device. You hear a rattling noise, and it falls out into Zardoz's hand. And he gestures towards you, Samael, and he says, "The agreement."
I will honor it. Hand me the ring.
And he says, "Hand you the ring.
I'll put it on myself.
It requires you to put your hand within the device."
Very well.
I'm actually
Wait.
actually shocked that she was able to get one on her hand. And Zara, you can actually see where you have a very distinct zigzag lightning bolt scar on your finger.
Samaya, what are you doing? It's off. What more do we need?
I'm completing the bargain. Go outside if you don't want to see it.
No, what? A bargain.
Let's do it.
As you place your hand within the chamber, you feel you watch as Zardoz opens a little circular port on top of the model, and he drops the ring inside, and it falls into your open palm. And he says, "There you go. You may put it on any finger. Doesn't really work too well on thumbs. A lot of the crew, they had a tendency to lose their thumbs."
Huh. Very well. I'll put it on my ring finger.
Okay. And when you do so and pull your hand out of the device, the ring cinches over your hand. And it's somewhat painful at first, but then you get used to the pressure that's on your finger. And he says, "Welcome to the Sea Maidens Fair. Would you like?
Ahead.
Would you like the grand tour now?" I kid, of course. Miss Zara, you seem a little queasy, a little uneasy. Are you all right?
I didn't know this was part of the deal.
Apparently your friend here cares about you deeply. Take on this sort of responsibility. And with that, we have an accord. I see no reason to keep you all on board any longer. Why don't we retire back to the main deck and I'll let you be on your way.
Zardoz, one moment, please. Zar, could you go outside?
Okay. And I step out.
Zara, as you step out into the chamber, looking around the 10-foot wide corridor, You can hear the giggling now coming from the room that's immediately in front of you. And you hear a very faint sound of a female voice saying, watch him, it's amazing, look, he just keeps doing it over and over again, it's amazing.
You're up against the door.
Okay, make a stealth check.
Okay.
Byron, you're seeing all of this from your vantage point.
Oh my gosh.
Zara,
Yeah,
as you lean against the door was not closed, and you fall in on your face. And you see two females, scantily clad in various stages of undress, on a bed, staring at you now, sort of covering themselves with their hands. And you see between them, floating, twirling around, spinning around in circles, on its back, doggy paddling in the mid-air, flying. You see a flying miniature hamster. And the two women yell out. They both kind of sort of, "Ee! Oh, who are you? What are you doing here?"
I'm sorry, I'm just leaving.
What are you doing here? Are you part of the carnival? I've never seen you before.
No, they just took me down here for a moment. Are you part of the carnival?
Yes. We're we're and they both continue to sort of giggle, get a little red in the face. And one of them says, "I'm an acrobat, and Margot here, she is a lyrist. She's a musician. We're Gethrick's girlfriends."
Oh, well, I'm sure he's very lucky to have you.
Oh, we're the ones that are lucky, love. And they both sort of look at each other, give each other knowing glances. Are you? You're not. Oh, not. What are you doing here? And she continues. She stands now, and she's now pulling on a very thinly veiled shawl that she's putting over it, which doesn't cover hardly anything at all. Like everything is all out and exposed for you. Her very, very skimpy lingerie is exposed for you to see, and you see that the woman that regards you, she's a tall human, very fit, and the other one appears to be a halfling woman. And she's now very hastily putting clothes on, as this other woman doesn't appear to be quite as modest. And the halfling woman is trying to catch the hamster, which is like sort of like bamfing out in and out of existence in the air just as she reaches up to grab him. And then you hear the halfling woman say, "Now, Derek, come here now, love. Come here. Derek, come here." And gestures and holds her hands out. Stops trying to catch him now, and the hamster bamfs into her open palm. And you hear a little squeaking noise as she takes the hamster and puts it into his enclosure. Sorry, Sabrina, if you're trying to talk there, all I heard was the sound of someone rubbing a pillow against the microphone.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Hello.
How did you both get to know Gandrick?
Gethrick.
Gethrick, my apologies.
Well, when we joined the fair the last year, and one thing led to another, and we, of course, neither one of us showed any interest in men, if you will, but Gethrick has his ways, and we all just sort of fell in love with each other.
All right. Nice love story. Ah. Nice to meet y'all.
It was nice to meet you too.
I'll be on my way.
Very well. And she just sort of, not impolitely, but sort of ushers you out of the room and then closes the door, and you can hear in very hushed tone voices, you can hear them whispering to each other. And back in Zardos' chamber. So my friend, Samael, what can I do for you?
Yes, at this point here, I don't think you owe me anything. We do have a bargain, and I intend to honor it. But I do ask one small favor of you. When you start investigating into the disappearance of your crew member, when you find out any information on that Inquisitor that caused all this problem from the get-go, relay it back to me. I wish to handle that personally.
Well, since you are technically a member of the crew now, a member of the Sea Maiden's Fair, under contract at the very least, I don't see why not.
Very well. I intend to remove every bone out of her body.
Now, if there's nothing else, we'll head back upstairs. I'm sure your friend Sarah is getting quite bored out in the hallway by herself. Unless you decided to head to the steam room and have a sit.
No. We'll go ahead and go back up there. I'm sure they were wondering what's happened.
Oh, very well. And you all head out.
With that, we'll open the door.
Head into the hallway. Mark, make a stealth check. Very nice. And continue on up and up the stairs. Instead of taking the stairs at the back, he directs you to one of the stairs down that are on either side, across from the doors leading into the two cabins on either side of the ship, starboard and port. And he leads you up to the main deck until you all back up together, reunited on the top deck. Byron, do you continue on all the way up behind them, or do you wander?
Go back to the same corner.
Oh, you're going back the way you came?
Yeah.
Okay. When you head up to that level, just above the level that you're on now, you notice that the door is now ajar that was in that 10-foot by 10-foot chamber. And as you look through the door, you see a large area of the ship. It seems to be a large storage section level of the ship. And you see crates and barrels, you see chests galore. You see the main masts, the support masts that go through the decks of the ship that hold the ship together. You see a couple of other doors immediately to your left and your right as you look around. And you hear that strange sound that sounded like footsteps running and then slowing down and then running again.
Continue up.
Going up the stairs?
Yeah, back to
Okay. You continue on completely unmolested and don't run into any crew members. You find your way back up to the deck immediately below the main deck. Zardoz, addressing all of you now on the main deck, he looks to each of you and says, "Very well, it seems that we have an accord, we have an understanding. If you will all be so kind as to follow your friend Samael." Oh, where are my manners? Where is my memory? I haven't even told you what item that you're supposed to retrieve yet. I need you all to find a little stone. called the Stone of Galore. Find it and bring it to me. Of course, I do not know where this item might be. I'm sure you're all resourceful. I'm sure you can research it yourselves and find out where it could possibly be.
Do you have any description of it?
Oh, sure. The last I heard, it had been in the possession of a particular crime boss. It's about the size of the palm of your hand, glossy, about polished greenish gray stone. And it has a few raised areas on it. The way it's been described to me, I myself have never seen it, but it has 3 very distinct raised areas on the top of the stone. From what I have learned, if you find this item, we can find this treasure. At least that's the rumors that I've heard. It was, last I heard, in the possession of the Zesh Guild. Not too long ago, about a month or so ago, and then some nasty business between the Zesh Guild and the Bolramar clan. And that has sort of quieted down, to my knowledge. There hasn't been any more outward issues in regards to that conflict. But the stone remains unclaimed as far as I know. Or if it is out there, it's passing from hand to hand, folk trying to sell the item off, mistaking it for a bit of jewelry, odd trinket of some sort. You find that stone, I'll take that ring off your hand, I'll give you 5,000 gold, and I might have something else for you.
That sounds fair enough. We'll have it in no time at all.
Excellent. Well, it is rather late. I'll give you an option. My friends, we have had ourselves a very interesting evening. And I've been a terrible host. Just absolutely dreadful. If you would all like to stay the night, I'm sure that I can accommodate all of you. Would that be agreeable? It will take you back to shore in the morning. I'd prefer not to, the waters are dangerous. Your friends have said it themselves, they lost a rowboat to a shark. It's dangerous to row out there in the pitch black.
I think we should go ahead and leave. We want to get our jump on this as soon as possible and get this matter taken care of.
Well, I can't spare many of my men to row you, but I can spare a couple of rowboats. You can leave the rowboats at the docks and just let the dock workers know that they belong to the Sea Maidens Fair. Is that agreeable?
Very well. That sounds good to us. As you said, we are quite capable.
Very well. So, in terms of a time frame, I don't imagine that giving you a time limit would be appropriate. So, why don't you check back with me in a week, see if you've found this item. You can send.
Probably won't even be necessary. We'll probably have it way before then.
Your enthusiasm is impressive, my friend.
I'm not used to failing.
Neither am I. Well, very well. If that is all, men, and he now, speaking in Elvish, directs the men, points towards a few of them, speaking words that you can only assume are names and gestures towards the deck. Go ahead and let a couple of the rowboats down, and then we'll send these folk on their way.
But maybe when I come back, I can get an outfit like yours.
I don't wear this all the time. This is just what I wear when I'm entertaining guests.
I would.
And one by one, each of you are led down to the rowboats. And one at a time, you all make your way down the rope ladder into the rowboats proper. And he waves to each of you and says, "Be careful. The night is dark. It's dangerous out there."
Thank you. We will.
As the last of our party members get on board, I'll walk past the guy and say, "Good evening," and I'll get in one of the boats.
And he says, hold on. And he reaches out and puts a hand on your shoulder, and he turns you around slowly towards him, and he says, "Hello. I see you had a nice stroll on my ship."
I was keeping an eye on my friend.
It's understandable and admirable. In the future, you can... There's no need for subterfuge, my friend. You've been watched this entire time.
Oh, that's good.
It was smart of you not to disturb the babies.
I'm not here to steal.
And he whispers to you in your ear, he says, "They are quite voracious. And their venom is
I'm sure.
terrible. The sting, I have heard, was enough to kill a man before the poison even entered their bloodstream. But I digress. Please join your friends." And he gestures towards the rowboats.
Good evening, all.
Linda is now frantically gesturing towards you to get into her boat.
I get in her boat.
Farewell, adventurers, whoever you all are, really. I'm sure that I'll see you all again very soon, especially you, Samael.
Most definitely.
Perhaps we'll share a cup of mulled wine or an ale of any sort, and perhaps have a conversation about the niceties of the world and our kindred fellowship.
It would be a pleasure.
Well, do be careful. Farewell.
Farewell.
And with that, each of you, whoever is rowing in each of the ships, I'm going to assume that without going into too crazy of details, that you each, 4 of you in each boat, because each rowboat can hold 4 people.
Broomhild's rowing one boat and I'm rowing the other, and we're both in a race back to shore.
Okay. It takes you a few hours, and it's a bit difficult to keep you both in sight of each other. So I'm going to need both of you to roll survival checks. And Linda,
I can roll for our boat.
that needs to be done by the person who is navigating. Hence, meaning the person who's rowing. Unless you're planning on picking up a roll. That's a really nice one, Samael.
Thank you. It's got skills.
I will say that if you're in the boat, you can help them with their survival check, Byron.
Okay.
So if you're in the boat with Brunhild, you can roll with advantage. So go ahead and roll that again. There you go. So you're both able to, over the course of a few hours, keep a really good eye on the shoreline, and you're able to see the lights of the city, which in the distance, the towers are just lit up. The sky above it is has a bit of an amber glow, sort of a golden yellowish amber, and you can see almost neon colors of lights of rings from elemental airships which are hovering in place at the top, the highest points of the towers in the distance. And you can see even higher still above the towers, you see another section of floating buildings with even more sky coaches and ships milling about in the distance. And you can also see the shoreline of Cliffside coming into view as you get closer.
And by the way, what was the name of the ship we just left again?
It was called the Eye Catcher.
Thank you.
So, as you get closer to the harbor, you all hear sort of like an expulsion of air in the water, sort of like a psst, and you can hear a throaty voice saying, "Hey, I don't mean to startle you. It's me. It's Zell. I knew it was you. I smelled you."
Who's saying that? Where are you?
And
Which boat is he at?
in the light of the well, your boats are fairly close together, like a few yards away from each other. In the light from the harbor, from the ever bright lanterns, you just see a dark shape emerging from the water.
By the silver flame, you're a big one, aren't you?
Oh, hey. Oh, it's always nice to meet a new one. Hey, new friends, old friends.
Old friends.
I saw chunks of wood in the water earlier, and I feared the worst.
Yeah, those sharks almost got us, but we're here.
Zell, we do have news for you.
How fortuitous! Awesome! I have news for you too.
Siggy, what they're doing beneath the ship, and well, news to you guys as well. Remember Dimble, and they're building a submarine / airship mix using slave labor.
Well, that's terrible. So that's what it was? It was a submarine and it was an airship? That's weird.
Yes.
I haven't seen one of those before.
They're also making it so it doesn't need a storm or light elemental, something like that. I'm not too up and up about the information of that.
Well, a deal is a deal. And he very deftly says, "Hold a moment." And he submerges himself below the surface of the water. And after a few minutes, he comes back up, and holding in one of his dragon claw hands, he holds a barnacled chest up. And he says, "Again, I haven't opened it yet, so I'm not sure what's in it."
Oh,
And he holds it
I
out.
think so.
He holds it out to you. Whoever will take it from him.
I'll take it. Is it locked?
It is locked, yes. But
Alright.
it's pretty rusted. Just looking at it and you can tell even with your dark vision without lighting a light that the lock looks like it's pretty barnacled and rusted. The texture, even in the grays of your dark vision, you can see that it's pretty dark. I should also say that any of you without without your traditional dark vision, you'd still be able to make out that the dragon in the water, this big shape looming over the two ships. And he's just sort of like expectantly looking at all of you now. Looking
Your
at,
name's Zell?
"Hey man, yeah, my name's Zell. What's your name?"
I'm Samael. It's a pleasure to meet you.
And he looks at you, he nods, and he does a little jagged wink, and he says, "Pleasure's all mine."
So tell me, Zell, are you able to assume a human form?
"Oh man, that's old magic. No, I'm not old enough to do that."
Oh, that's a shame. I was hoping you'd be able to stop by our inn sometime and hang out.
That's what I was thinking too.
Unfortunately, I can't. In fact, no dragons can come within Sharn.
What?